Dearest educators, this is Dr. K. I wanted to post this just to set the four agreements, or I guess we can call them norms too, for discussions about race particularly, because as this is a core concept in this class, it's an imperative thing for us to discuss. However, as I said in the post, it can elicit many negative experiences and emotions and pain, in which can make the conversation actually destructive instead of constructive. And I want to avoid that. So, in order for us to engage in a constructive conversation about race, I would like for us to hopefully at least come upon some base ground understanding of what rules we should follow. And these are the four that I'm hoping to use, and I found them very useful as a teacher, talking about these issues with students from third grade all the way up to graduate students. So I'm just going to say them out loud, tell you why I think they're important. I'm not going to read this whole article to you. You can read the whole thing if you'd like to, or if you'd like to use this as a resource for yourself later. It is by Singleton and Linton, and this one, it says it comes from a field guide to achieving equity in schools. It also comes out of that book that I uplinked in the discussion forum, which is called Everyday Anti-Racism, Getting Real About Race in School. So the four norms are: first, stay engaged, and I think this is a pretty logical thing. In order for us to continue conversation, we have to have people participate. And staying engaged doesn't just mean that you put something down in the discussion forum and that's engagement. It's continually reading, continually listening to, and continually sort of asking questions of other people's ideas in conversation, and deciding to essentially lean in and not lean out, to be present. And this could mean that you're present, especially when you reply to other people. But also, if someone says something that does enrage you, or it does create an anxiety in you, or does push you in a way that gives you a negative emotion, you decide to stay present and to sit with that emotion instead of making it create a wall or run away from the conversation. So staying engaged is core number one. Just be present, be here. So experience discomfort, or expect to experience discomfort, is norm two. And that really is about knowing that at some way or another, if this discussion is successful, discomfort is going to be something you experience. I'm going to be the same way. I've engaged in many, many discussions about race from many different contexts, but discomfort is certainly something that I expect to experience every time. And the question, of course, is not do we feel it, or is what do we do with discomfort? And hopefully that discomfort you can understand as being something that is a border stretching, or a political or socially stretching idea of being able to push you intellectually, but also sort of practically in your daily life. That discomfort is a way of kind of unpacking our assumptions and looking at them a little bit and saying, do I really believe what I believe? And why do I believe that? And we can't do that unless we are made uncomfortable at some point. Next one is speaking your truth. And I think this one comes from really using language that talks about your experiences and your knowledge, and not speaking for generalities or groups of other people. So when we talk about discussions of race, particularly, I'm going to try to speak, and I'm going to ask you to do the same, from using mostly I language, that I experience these things and I perceive them in this way, and here's why I think them. But really, it's about honesty, this bottom line. If we are trying to code our language in order to not offend other people, or to develop arguments that we think are only there just to remain neutral, quote unquote, or to remain non-controversial, if that's your goal, we're not going to get anywhere with these conversations. So speaking your truth is really about honesty. It's speaking from your own personal experiences and perspectives. Again, you know how in D'Angelo and Sensor they talked about leaning in, that one of the things is not rely on anecdotal evidence. And I know a lot of you sort of took issue to that. And I think that bringing in your own anecdotal experience and story is a very positive thing. But that is being evidence for a larger general pattern of how, for example, issues of race, racism, white supremacy works is a different thing. So bringing your stories in, bringing your truth in is powerful. However, don't necessarily use your story as evidence for a universal truth, and I think there's a difference there. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is to expect and accept non-closure, aka the discussion is never done. Talks about race are not a one and done deal, nor a two and done or three and done deal. It's a constant conversation that you are engaging in with other people. with other media texts, in many formats. And hopefully you know that we're not going to come to any solid conclusions about race in this conversation. However, we might come up with more questions and perhaps some inferences or questioning of our own assumption bases, and that's really a bottom line success. So that's what I'm going to offer you. This whole article is useful if you'd like to learn more. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing what you guys put in conversation, and I'll see you in the chat room. Or I guess chat room is like a 1990 thing to say. I'll see you on the discussion board.